Welcome to the Chicago Bears Podcast, a presentation of ESPN Chicago, Chicago's home for sports. Here's your host, Pat, the designer.
Bear down, Bears fans. Welcome into another episode of the Chicago Bears Podcast. We're back for another week. Pat the designer here, Lance Briggs on a Monday as always. Lance, how was the weekend, brother?
You know what? It was event filled. There was a lot going on, a lot of games. My niece had a grad party.
Okay.
And it was fun. It was fun. Got to see some folks I haven't seen in a while, and we relaxed. We played some games and felt the love. I felt loved.
Can't go wrong there. Graduated 8th grade or high school?
High school.
Okay. Heading off to college. Big college in her future?
She's headed to Kansas.
Kansas.
Yep. There's a community college in Kansas that are going to help develop her basketball skills over the next 2 years as she furthers her education. And then, who knows from there.
So this is just a full athlete family. That's what we're talking about here. That's what's happening here, basically.
There's some decent genes in there now. There's some decent genes.
Hey, we got a lot to get into today, ladies and gentlemen. OTAs open today. We'll get Lance's perspective on how he looked at OTAs, how the team should be looking at OTAs, how important he believes that things are for this young team coming into this season. We're also going to talk about how does a team handle, or as a player, handle an organization that maybe isn't trying to go for a Super Bowl every year. How do you deal with that in the mindset of a player? And then I got a special question about a certain game that happened in Lance's career that our own Wednesday host, Jason McKee, asked me to bring up to him. He said, ask Lance about this. So had to bring that here. All that more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears Podcast. Make sure you guys are hitting that like button and drop a bird down right now to let us know that you're here. Let's get into the show. First quarter. So, Lance, OTAs is open. We're going to see the players finally hit the field. We've got a very young team here. We've got a team that is trying to get into the second year of the system, start to move towards the right direction. How important is it to have as close to 100% participation as you can at this point?
For this young team and everyone, there's an importance of buying into the system, into the Eberflus system. This year is probably most important. You got to have guys in. It's one of those. It's very boring. The monotony of going through. Hey, what's your alignment here? What's your key? All right, what in this formation? What's your alignment? What's your key? In this formation, and it's all of that, and it's going through each player in that linebacker room, testing them to make sure that that they understand where their alignment, their assignment, their key is each play. This is the time where you get tested. You have test competitions between guys to see if they're who's sharper, who can react the fastest. There's fundamental. I mean, here's where your fundamentals come into play and the things that are going to carry you throughout the season. This is what OTAs is all about. It's repetition.
Does it mean more to the team as a whole when you see a good chunk of your teammates show up, a good, where okay, everybody's in the building. That means that everybody's bought into this. Does that mean more to you guys sticking out than, if people are kind of just like, hey, I'm here, but I'm just kind of going through it. I'm on the sidelines. I'm just, hey, good to see y'all.
I don't know. It's one of those deals where, like I said, for this young team, it's important to have everybody there.
Right.
But there are times where, I've had contract issues going on with the organization.
Right.
And me not being at OTAs, I'm sure didn't worry anybody on the team. At that point they knew, look, Lance knows what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like, and it's actually a great opportunity for whoever else, the other linebackers, to get more reps that Lance probably would have had Lance been here. But when we get to training camp, that's when we need Lance. Or if Urlacher wasn't there or Peanut wasn't there, there are certain guys that down the line that if they're not at OTAs, it's not the end of the world. And it's actually an opportunity for other guys to get some reps should these guys get hurt in the season. But this year for this young team, and like I said, buying into this system, we need everybody there. We need to be as full of a roster as we possibly can be so that we can all start getting on the same page. There's trust that has to be built.
When you look at where this team is heading, right? Who are you watching closely in OTAs? Can you even get anything for real from OTAs as like an outside looking in? That's the real question, because we always see like these grand predictions based off of some slow motion throw that happens rolling out, you know what I mean? Or something like that. You know what I mean? Or somewhere it's like, oh, he would have got hit right there. They'd have laid him out. You got to be better. Yeah. Like, can you really take a lot from OTAs?
Well, yeah. I mean, from especially, and I'd be watching the linebackers for my, obviously I'm watching the linebackers. I want to see how they're moving. I want to see how they're playing their cover 3. I want to see how they're playing cover 2, how they're dropping in their coverages, how they're adjusting the routes, how they're reading the routes, they should be reading the routes in this defense. Yeah. And so and how they're, and more than that, how are they breaking to the ball? Are they breaking to the ball on every play? Are they trying to rip the ball out? Are they trying to punch the ball out each play? As a habit, as a fundamental, that tells me, or that gives me a lot of hope for the 2023 season when I see those types of things.
Yeah. Who are you watching closest in this? You said you'd be watching the linebackers. Is there a specific player that you got your eye on that you really like? Okay, I think this might be your year, dog. I think this
all
might
of
be.
them.
You keying in on all of them.
I'm looking at Edmonds. I'm looking at Edwards. I'm looking at Sanborn. Yeah. I'm looking at Sewell. I'm looking at all the guys that are going to make up that linebacker room. And I want to see, how these guys. Like I said, I want to see how these guys move. I want to see how they drop in their drops. I want to see how they break on the ball. I want to see, what the good fit is going to be, the best fit, the best 3. And we obviously think it's going to be Edmonds, Edwards, and Sanborn, right. But how does Sewell fit in there? There's other guys that are on that roster that the average is gonna fight for a position.
Was there a situation that you were in where somebody won the job in OTAs? Is that what we can expect, something here where you're gonna see somebody come out and you're gonna be like, hey bro, like he might, like maybe the coaches don't fully come out and say it, but they be like, hey bro, he might have it, bro. Like this might be his job in 2 weeks.
Wait. So you're saying
that tells me there's a story there, Lance. That tells me there's a story.
when I was playing, the Bears drafted a guy almost every year to replace me.
Yeah.
And it was but it wasn't, it was never a, man, this guy looks good. Like Lance, you better watch out.
Yeah.
It was more when the guy got drafted. Hey, we drafted a guy to come play weak side backer. And by OTAs, end of OTAs, it was Lance. We're moving forward with you. It was one of those. We're happy you're here. We're happy you're here, buddy.
So you say they was trying to get you up out of there, but you wasn't letting go. That's what it was.
Listen, that's the process of the NFL. Listen, they're always trying to find your replacement.
Yeah,
they're always going to try to find your replacement. It is your job to stick. It's your job to continue to add value to yourself and to your team.
This is my favorite part, tapping into the mindset of Coach Lance. If you had to sit here and be on the field and coach up these linebackers, Noah Sewell, Jack Sanborn, young guys like that, Tremaine Edmonds, guys who have been around the block, what's your message to them in OTAs? What is the one thing that you're telling this linebacking crew that you, based on what you saw last year from them coming into this season, this is where our focus needs to be?
Run everywhere. I'd say run everywhere, challenge everyone. When you get into your one-on-ones, challenge whoever the best running backs are, whoever the shiftiest running back is. Because that's where you're going to get your best work. If you're going to get one-on-ones against the tight ends, challenge the best tight ends. Get up there, press, soft press, try to get into the mind games of strategically playing football. because there's a lot of things. And when you go against the best, you have an idea of how they're trying to beat you. You guys need to trade notes. You could trade notes as well, on what you're thinking and how he's thinking. So when you get into that game, shoot, man, you're steps ahead because you've trained against the best that you guys have.
Yeah. Is this the time where you start to see those bonds built up, where people start to link? Right, they always talk about offensive linemen all being in sync with one. Is this the time where you have to start instilling, okay, listen, you guys need to be on a string on this type of play? When you see this coverage come in, this is where everything is. Is this the beginning of all of that?
Oh, absolutely. This is also where you come in to that linebacker room for the first time and you figure out where's each guy sitting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, it's because where you sit is going to define where the placement of everybody else, and once the vets come in and, we come in, I got my seat. Oh, Lack, you're sitting right there. Okay. Well, I guess I'm sitting right. This is my spot.
Wait. You talk about real seats. I thought you meant sitting on the field. Wait, the seats is that important, dog?
Listen. Now, as a veteran, as a vet now, I'm coming in. And we have some new guys that are in there. They don't know, and our coach didn't tell them where the seats are. So now I'm coming in. I'm like, hey, that's my seat. That's my seat. All right. Oh, sorry about that, man. Let me get out of your way. Or the smart ones, what they do is when the vets come in, they line up on the wall to see where the vets sit, and then they file in.
Who took your seat, Lance? That seemed like that stuck with you. Somebody took your seat when you walked in one year.
No, listen, it wasn't one of those. It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me. And it was quickly remedied. Okay. It was quickly remedied. Guys, you were sitting in my seat. Hey, that's me right there. Hey, sorry about that, man. Let me get out of your way.
That's because ain't nobody picking a fight with you, Lance. You too big out here, man. I saw you when you walked in the room. He was like, man, I don't live like I used to back in the day. I was like, yeah, I know. But it's so interesting to me when I see, right, because a lot of times we hear about OTAs at the time, especially in the media world, where like, oh, it don't matter that much. He wasn't there at OTAs. It's not that big of a deal. But I think coming into this season, right, like you pointed out, it is an extremely big deal because this is Flus instituting his system. This is Alan Williams instituting this system. And I think that more so for the defensive side to me than even the offensive side, because I look at the offensive side, I see a bunch of guys who played in the system last season or who have played in the system before, right? Robert Tunyon's a guy who comes in. He knows where he's supposed to be because he played in the system in Green Bay. But I think on the defensive side, right, there's a lot of new bodies on that defensive side. There's a lot of new names on that defensive side. It's not just instilling the principles of the HITS principle, but I think it's literally, right, like there's an entirely new language that's coming into play now for guys like Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards, right? There's an entirely new expectation or set of, or I think expectation mostly, right? Because Tremaine Edmonds had an amazing defensive line in front of him. Not to say that this defensive line is going to be terrible, but he might have a lot more responsibility in his defense.
Yeah. And the thing about this defense is that it's a very thin notebook.
Yeah.
It's a thin notebook because it's not about the scheme, it's about how you play, and so you don't need a thick playbook to decide how you guys are going to play the game, and one of the most intimidating things that any offense is going to see is seeing 11 hats running to the ball every play. That is that's discouraging, and that's when you turn that tape on and you see that. You have to tell that your offense, hey, listen, it's going to be a long day, so just expect it. It's going to be a long day. And so that's one of the most important things that you're going to have to find out right now is you have to set the standard. What is the standard going to be, and who's going to be the ones to set the standard in the core of this defense. And if you set that standard, how are you going to uphold that standard on a daily basis? And that, right now, when you got OTAs, you have the whole team together. That's where you get it. You find out this is how we're going to play football, guys. This is how we're going to play football, and it can't get any lower than this. This is our shelf. Yeah, this is our shelf.
Second quarter.
So as we get into the second quarter, Lance, you mentioned something that I think is a really good point to bring out because of your time playing in the game. You always say 11 heads to the ball. You make it sound very simple, but for those of us out here who didn't, have long NFL careers or long football careers, how do you instill that 11 heads to the ball? Because we've seen Bears teams that in name, you should have these top defensive players, but it doesn't play out on the field. How do you start that now?
Repetition. The standard has to be set right now. You have to find your core of guys that understand what the standard is. And while Alan Williams and Eberflus are they're repeating, what has to be done on the field. And on the field, it's also where you're going to get your conditioning. If there's a way that you play the game come fall 2023, it starts here, and the young guys have to understand this is how we play the ball. Like every time that ball is thrown, our defensive tackles, our linebackers, our safeties, our corners are all running to the ball. They're all getting over there to the ball. And when they get there, they're trying to punch the ball out. When they arrive, they're trying to punch the ball out. That ball gets on the ground, we're picking it up and we're going to score. And it's a habit of, you get a pick, you score, you pick up a fumble, you score, and if you don't pick up the fumble or if you don't get the pick, you're looking for somebody to block. And these are the habits that you have to have. And so when it happens during the season, you already know what to do. It's not new to you. Nothing is new to you. And that's taking stuff to the next level.
Is this a time of year where you're trying to identify your leaders? Is this a time of year where, you're looking for, okay, these are going to be my captains right now through the season? Even though I think that Flus does the revolving captain thing. I think he adds in a new captain every week or something like that, or honorary captain. But this is the time where you look for your leaders to kind of stand out.
Yeah, usually their leaders they're established. Usually they were established when I was there, when I arrived,
yeah.
And but that doesn't mean that there's not room for more leaders. Your whole room should be full of leaders. Yeah. And leaders know exactly who to follow, and that's how it is. And all leaders lead in a different way. Some are more vocal, some lead by example. Some lead by support. There's many different ways to be a leader. And so that's one of the things that you walk into that linebacker room and leaders, the leaders have their seats established already, or you wait for them. You listen, and it's okay to be the young guy that's like, where do you sit? Oh, okay, then I'll take this seat over here because if it's open, hey, is this seat open? Because one day I'm going to have my seat established. Yeah. That's my goal, is to make sure that I'm established in here. But you have to start somewhere.
Do you feel like we have them on the defensive side already? Do you feel like we have our leaders established, or do you think that with this team that there's still going to be that feeling out process early in the season?
Well, of course, there's some established leaders there. Eddie Jackson, number one comes to mind. Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, even though he's only a second year, that defensive backfield, I think, big time, Travis Gibson. And then linebacker wise, the guys that are coming in Edmonds and Edwards. I'm coming from the Eagles who played in the Super Bowl. There's, he's a Chicago guy. There's leadership skills there. There's there's leadership there, in all of those guys. So Sanborn too. Shoot, man, he's another Chicago guy. All of them, I think, have leadership qualities.
It's so interesting to talk about, right? Edmonds and Edwards, especially, right? Like when y'all had Julius Peppers come in, was he a leader the second he walked in the room? Like, did y'all look to him and be like, you that guy? Like, we know what it is. We got our leaders, but you're now one of them.
Nah, he's, of course, he's automatic. We knew he was the leader, Julius, he was a leader in his own way. He's not a guy that talked a lot. He wasn't a rah-rah guy. He was a guy that was going to play. He was going to lead by example. He was lead by example, that. So, it was just, it's a good fit. You're going to find out how you're going to fit. You're going to find, and the fit's going to work the way that it works. When we signed Julius, I don't think that anyone on our team thought like he was going to be the vocal guy. He never came off that way in any of his games in Carolina, and so So, having him on the team and having him there, like, when it was just us linebackers or us defensive guys on the sideline, when it was offensive emphasis, of course we're talking, but it just, from a leadership standpoint, he wasn't a vocal guy. He was a lead by example guy.
Yeah, I asked that because I feel like, right, Tremaine Edmonds, I think a lot of people look at Tremaine Edmonds or right, like those guys that get the big money and they say, well, he got paid, so he got to be a leader. And it's like, well, I don't know, right? Like it depends on how that player is coming in and wants to impact the culture that's already there. For you guys, right? You already a great defense. You already a top defense in the NFL. You were just adding Julius Peppers into that. So I think that, right, like Tremaine Edmonds' situation is probably completely different because realistically, we had a lot of defensive issues last season. And so there's probably a lot more people that are willing to listen. And so I'm kind of just hoping that he's able to come in and, I guess, motivate. Right. Like, I think that's the one thing that I look at where, at least with the defensive line, it felt like at times last season, especially when the run game was killing them, that they were just like, we ain't got it today. We're done.
Well, the other thing, too, is who's going to call the huddle? I'm assuming that Tremaine Edmonds is going to call the huddle. Right. Now, you have been automatically launched into a leadership position on the defense if you're calling the huddle. That's just a role that you have to accept, and it's usually one that's on your Mike or your top linebacker. So I'm looking to see that he should be the guy that's making the call, which also means he's making adjustments, which means that when he talks, the defense listens. Yeah.
Who's the underdog in OTAs that you're hoping makes a little bit of a name for himself coming out?
Oh, underdog. I don't know if he's so much of an underdog, but I just want to hear good things, more good things. I want to hear good things from Chase Claypool. I think coming out last year, we were underwhelmed by what he did since he got here last year. And I want that to trend in a different direction. So I'd love to hear all the great things that he's doing, all the good catches and the things he's doing after the catch, throughout OTAs. And I want that to carry over into training camp. I want to see it in preseason, and I want to see more of him involved in the offense in 2023. I think he should be a big part of it. I think he's a mismatch when you get near the end zone. We have a couple of mismatches there. We have to take advantage, when we see it.
As a player, did you kind of understand what Claypool was going through last season, where he goes from one system to a different system coming over to Chicago and just wasn't able to catch on? Did you look at that and be like, listen, I know y'all think he's supposed to just be able to play, but playbooks aren't that easy to just cram in a week and a half and get out there and dominate?
Well, they're not. Yeah, it takes some time to really understand some of these playbooks. But I think they put specific plays in for him. You can kind of see, especially in those first 15, the scripted plays, where this is a Claypool play. This is your play. Yeah. And it just wasn't one of those things that it broke for big yardage. Yeah. I think maybe his longest was maybe 10 yards, maybe 10 yards, if that. So when you have a playmaker, you have a guy that you're coming in that's bolsters or is supposed to be another weapon for you. Coaches will put plays in for you specifically because we want to get the ball in your hands. We want to get our ball into our playmakers' hands.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. We're going to keep this thing moving along because the second half is coming up. But first, we got halftime. Lance, anything you want to tell the people at halftime? Anything you want to bring out?
Just, listen, the legend Jim Brown died recent last couple of days ago. RIP to him. Just what an incredible person. The things that he did in the civil rights movement and just one of the first, to be drafted and he was a huge figure. You know what I mean? And when you talk to I talk with my dad and, grandfathers, they talk about Jim Brown, man. Jim Brown, something special. He's something special, And so, just, hey, man, just spread love, man. That's all I'm saying is just spread love.
Did you ever get a chance to meet Jim Brown?
I've met him. I have met him before. It was brief. And Jim Brown's kind of guy that when he talks, you listen.
Yeah, it definitely seems like that. It seemed like, just seeing him when he would talk on TV. Like, I loved seeing him talk when other players were around, because it really was like, all right, everybody shut up. Jim's talking. Like, we got to take something in because he gonna spit some bars right now. Like, it's RIP to Jim Brown, man. That was some tough news to hear over the weekend for sure. Little lighter note. I mean, kind of sad for me and my a lot lighter note, I guess, but kind of sad for me in my fandom of the NBA. Carmelo Anthony retiring on us today.
Okay.
Melo hanging it up after, I believe, 19 seasons.
Yeah.
How you feel about the legacy of Melo going on? First ballot Hall of Famer for sure.
He's first ballot. He's definitely first ballot. And, just number one, thank you, Carmelo, man, for entertaining us for as long as you did. Selfishly, I wish you would have come to the Bulls, because that, we knew that piece right there is the one that would have tipped us over into that championship. But, he went a different route and didn't get the chip. So, but again, if we're talking about career, like I said, thank you for entertaining us for 19 years.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. They needed to get you on the recruiting tour. Did they ever call any of y'all in to like recruit for a different sport? Be like, hey, man, just show them the town. Show them how Chicago get down, man. They never. No, sir. But if they have done that, we might have been able to seal a few more big names. Hey, listen. Y'all got to get on that, man. Stop trying to have doggone Zach LaVine take these guys out. Let's go get Justin Fields on it, man. Justin know where to be at. He know where the party's at, man. He probably does. Listen, it's a young man's game, man. It's a young man's game. You got to ask the young guys. Justin cracked me up because I swear somebody literally probably over the offseason was like, hey, Justin, people think that you don't like anything. You should probably show some personality. And he was like, all right, I'm going to just show up places and start. And like, Justin would just be like, yeah, I'm doing Rich Eisen show today. All right, I'm here. Like, oh, okay, all right. You're the coolest dude in the room. Don't worry about it. Hey, let's get into the second half, man. Let's keep this thing moving right along. Lance, as we get into the third quarter. We've heard Ryan Poles talk over the weekend. We talked about this Friday when I had Black and Abdallah in studio with us. And we talked about how Ryan Poles says that the Chicago Bears should compete for the NFC North title. And while I love to hear that, while I think that is a great thing to hear from my GM that he wants us to go out there and get it, right? That's still just the NFC North title. That means something to us here in Chicago, maybe not something in the grand scheme of things. How do you handle it as a player coming into a season where you know that the goals of your organization is not Super Bowl? One step at a time. All right, now let's go back to when Lovey got hired. Yep. All right, he said, beat Green Bay, win the NFC North, win the NFC division, Super Bowl. It wasn't Super Bowl in Super Bowl NFC division, NFC North. No, you got to go one step at a time. All right. Now we beat Green Bay. Those are our biggest rivals. Let's beat them. Let's beat them on the series. Go 2 for 2 on the series. Let's win the NFC North. All that can happen in the same season. Yeah. All right. Win the NFC division. All can happen in the same season. But we got to get those first two first. These are things that, these are part of the goal. So, when you talk about, win the NFC North, I don't think number one, it's attainable. Yeah. And once you get to the NFC North, you win the NFC North, you get yourself into the playoffs. Yeah. Once you're in the playoffs, heck, man, let's keep this thing going. Let's become world champs. Yeah.
You know, and so I don't think you're cutting anybody, or they're cutting anybody short or anything like that. But let's focus on what's attainable right now. You know, and before you can get to the Super Bowl, we need to win this NFC North.
Is it easy to kind of follow that plan as a player when you kind of know, right? Like, okay, listen, I know what your game plan is. I know the steps that you're trying to take to get here, but I want to go out here and I want to win every single one of these games every time in and out. And you're not putting the best players around us all the time for us to make that move right now, because as a GM, you have to think, okay, what are we going to be doing next year? What are we going to be doing 3 years down the line, 4 years down the line, 5 years down the line? Whereas the player is like, 5 years down the line ain't what I'm worried about right now. I'm worried about this Sunday.
Well, look at it like this. Regardless of the products that are put out there, you know, that to your left, to your right on that football field, every football player's days are numbered.
Yes.
You don't know when that number is going to happen. So what's the attitude that I'm going to go out here with? You know, my attitude is this could be my last game, you know, and on top of that, you know, I just don't have it in me to let another guy just push me around or beat me. Right. You know, I have too much competitive blood, you know, to just back down to anyone. So that, you know, I'm going to bring my A game every day. I'm going to bring my A game every week, and you're going to get the best of me, regardless if the guy next to me or the guy to my left or to my right are up to par or not. You know, and hopefully I can inspire, or they can inspire me to play harder, and I can inspire them to play harder.
Do you take that and kind of compartmentalize it, right? Where you say, oh, they just think we're gonna win the NFC North. Now we're going out here, we taking heads today. Is there that where you're like, I understand what the organization's expectations of us are, but we gotta exceed that. We gotta take this to the next level.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you can only control what you can control.
Yeah.
If the organization's expectations are lower than what our standard is, that's fine. You can't control that. But what you can control is what happens in that locker room and on that field. Now, if we do this thing, you know, one day at a time, and we attain our goals on each one of those days and leading into the season, and each week we win the first quarter, we win the second quarter, you know, and whatever we split the third or win the fourth, we get ourselves to the playoffs, then we can start to change the minds of the people that had low expectations of us.
How do the coaches deal with that, right? Like when you know kind of what the expectation of this team is, or where the organization has built the team, how do the coaches come in and say, hey, listen, like y'all can't handle that. Y'all can't deal with that. You can only deal with what's happening on this field right now.
You know, it's every coach is different.
You've had a lot of different coaches, you know, by the way.
I've had some coaches, right? I've had some coaches down. We've been a team where, you know, who was it in 04, 05? You know, we were on a win streak, yeah. and we were being badmouthed by the media, and you know, Ron Rivera comes in and he's, you know, he's taking a page out of your book, flipping tables and slamming his fist down about the, you know, the spread that they have on us, how disrespectful they got them beating us by 10 points, you know, or 10 or 12 points, and we're averaging this on defense, you know, and we're only giving up 8 points defensively, you know, and it was one of those deals, you should be pissed off because I know I am. So it's a rah-rah speech, you know, and you know, other times it's just, hey guys, you guys know what to do. You know, this is your field, this is your team, take control of it. You know, and you know, we've had sound offs where, you know, Lovey's gone down each guy, you know, I've stood up, Lance Briggs, hey, I'm ready, you know, and it was one of those deals, you know. So there's a lot of different ways that coaches approach this thing. Yeah. I know that these coaches nowadays, they're probably different than the Rod Marinellis. You know, they're younger guys, you know, probably guys that I played with. Yeah, so how they connect with their team is unique to them.
It's so. I always hear this, right? Like we always see, like you got to get your team fired up, and my mindset has always been, if you got to get your team fired up, you might not have the right team. because your team should be fired up when they're heading out there. How were y'all in situations where, right, like maybe you know you're looking on the other side of the field and you're like, all right, Matt, I see you. I don't see a lot, but I see you, Matt. How were y'all right going into those games? Where did y'all like the rah-rah speeches? But y'all was just like, hey, we about this business. We about to go handle this.
What I've learned the most about getting ready for games is that everyone is different.
Yeah.
Everyone, they get prepared for a game differently. Yeah. Now you're going to run into guys that they are rah-rah guys. You have all of these in the locker room. The rah-rah guys will gravitate toward other rah-rah guys. I was a guy that I was loose. I was very loose, and I joked around. Me and Lack, we joked around because we knew that every question on the test we could answer.
Yeah.
We would look at our tests and by the end of it, I'm like, man, we know this. I don't need to see any more of this. We know it. Like, I know exactly what to do. I know what they're going to attack us. I know what my alerts are. So why am I nervous? Why would I be nervous? Why would I need to be all jacked up? I know what I'm supposed to do. Right. So and everybody's different. There's guys that I would hear in the locker room that were growling. They were growl and stuff like that. It became the norm. Like, I'm like, I want to hear that growl.
Who was growling, bro?
Ruben Brown. Ruben Brown was a growler, man. And we I thought it was weird the first time when he first got signed to the Bears, and he's growling and all before the game. And then it's just one of those deals like, man, where's that? There it is. There it is. It was one of those, I need to hear that growl now.
Yeah. Yeah, y'all wasn't walking out there with like the full "We Ready" playing behind you and like banging helmets on you. Y'all was just
No, we had our little sayings, man. We had our little deals that we would do on our way out, and it kind of built on, and then it was one of those deals where Lovey made sure that when he was walking out, he was in the arena area where he could hear it, and it was pretty cool, man, because we got to do that for the better part of 10 years together.
Man, that's love. It's always interesting hearing those stories, because to me it's like that the inside of the locker room is the dynamic that the media just don't get. There's so much we're like, right? Like people talk about, they be like, I was in the locker room and it felt like this. And it's like, yeah, but you're not feeling that from the player's perspective. Like, it's probably, if it's a bad locker room or something, it's probably 10 times worse from the player perspective. Mm-hmm. Or if it's like everybody was in there smiling, I don't know about, like, it's probably like, listen, they know what they got to do. They going to get to that next level. So I love hearing the locker room perspective on it. It is when you're in that locker room, and we've talked about the expectations. We've talked about how you're getting ready. How do you maintain that sense of urgency in that locker room? You were one of the leaders of our locker room. How do you maintain, hey, boys, listen, like you said, we don't get a ton of these. We got to go out there and we have to make sure that we're putting our best foot forward today.
Yeah, well, it's you kind of said it best. If by the time you're in the NFL or getting ready to go out to a game, if you don't know how to motivate yourself, then you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here, and that's that. For me, I just want to make sure that you know exactly what you're supposed to be doing when you go out there, and I was surrounded by guys that knew what they were supposed to do when they got out there, and they were going to go above and beyond, as far as taking that ball away. And I know that anybody that gets near Peanut, you better be hustling, because you might get a fumble. Hey, listen, if you get close, you can get a recovered fumble, because Peanut's knocking it out. Yeah. And so I was around a lot of guys that knew what they needed to do, so when we got out in that field, you can look each other in the eye and know that he's right there with you. I got your back. You got mine.
Who was the guy that knew how to push your buttons to get you to that next level, though? Yeah, I mean, I've seen Super Saiyan Lance out here. I see you had him games, but it's like, all right, he out of body right now, dog. He's dominating. Who was that guy that knew how to push your buttons to get you to that point?
When you go out, so one of the things that I love doing, I need some contact. I need some contact early. I want contact on the first play of the game. Sometimes, really, I'd like to be out on the special teams. And so once when the special teams is over, like I'd always sprint out there because I want this first play to come. Like it doesn't even have to. Like I didn't have to blast somebody. Like I can be hit. Like somebody could, knock me onto the ground or decleat me. But that just gets me going. There it is. I need that right there. All right. I need to hit somebody to get these butterflies out of my stomach.
Yeah. Oh man, listen. Hey, you're a better man than me. That's why I stuck to baseball and basketball, boy, because you hit me. Hey, we got to fight.
Fourth quarter.
Hey, let's get to this fourth quarter, man. This is the mystery question. This is the part that McKee told me that I have to personally ask you about because, Lance, he told a story about Adrian Peterson, rookie season versus you all. Where AP put up 224 rushing yards, 3 touchdowns.
True story.
and ran the kickoff to in overtime to set up the game-winning field goal. As a defensive player, what were you thinking the day that you saw Adrian Peterson?
What was I thinking that day? That was the first time I ever got 2 loaves in one play. I got 2 loaves in one play. I got a loaf. It was a toss to Adrian Peterson, and I got cut. And so I got a loaf for falling.
Right.
And I'm thinking he's gone, so I'm a loaf for staying on the ground. And then he turns and comes back my direction. So as he comes my direction, I'm like, oh, shoot, I might be able to make a play. I try to get up and I dive. I miss him again. And watch him run all the way to the end zone. So I got a lot of loaves in one play. It was a poor effort on my part. And had I been up and running to the ball, we might have been able to prevent that.
You might have stopped one of those 3 touchdowns that day. What was it? What was it like? What was it like? Just seeing what was y'all mindset? I guess going into that game as a defense, right? Thinking, listen, everybody, he running, but he's still a rookie. He not that guy yet.
Well, their scheme and what they were doing with a running back like that, it was great. If you can get guys in front of you that are busting their tail to help you get into that end zone, and then you have Adrian Peterson that's behind them that's like, just give me an inch, give me an inch, and I'm going to bust right through. So it's a combination of a lot of good football, a lot of good offensive plays. The way that they ran it, coming out, blocking and just getting in front of people and just allowing Adrian to go full steam ahead. It was, when you go back and you watch it, I mean, it was impressive what they did. I
had to after Jason talked about it. I said, I got to go see this game. I remember this, but I don't remember 224 yards.
Hey, listen, tell J Mac, all right, since we're talking about the Vikings, ask him about the game right before halftime that the Vikings took him to church. All right, just as a game that the Vikings took him to church, and right before the half, and it had all of us were on a knee. We were on a knee. Like we were at chapel, we were on a knee and we were praying. Now, ask him if he remembers this game.
I love it. We got shots back and forth. Write that down there. You're right. We got shots going back and forth.
Oh, yeah.
Here's the thing, though. As stout of a defense as you guys were, right? Yeah. When he gets to 100, and there's still a lot of game left, what's going through your mind?
Well, one of our goals defensively is to hold the runner under 100 yards, hold the offense under 200 yards. So a lot of times you always look up to see, he's got 48 yards going into half. Okay, good. Oh, he's got 80 yards going into half. We have to be really stout in the second half. When you look up and he's already got 123 yards and we're just starting the second quarter, like, no sense in looking up there anymore. This is he's out the gates now. He's 88 out the gate. It's disheartening, but you know what, man? It's the stuff that it's the stuff that you have to grow from. You know, you got to grow from this stuff, man. That's the way it goes. You know, we have to have it's going to leave a bad taste in our mouth, but we will see this team again, and when we do, we will make sure that he doesn't get run for 224 yards.
This is the part that really stood out to me when I watched the game. Was like, it wasn't like y'all just were like, okay, anything else? Like nobody else did nothing. It was just him. Like I'm sure like the offensive lineman playing well, stuff like that. But like I literally watched that game and I was like, it was just him. Like, is he the best running back that you ever got the chance to play against? Is he number one for you?
Probably so. Yeah, for sure.
Where's he rank all time for you in the running back Oh,
I don't know. I don't know. He's up there. He's definitely up there. You know, man. You know, I was he's absolutely a top 10. He's absolutely a top 10.
Cracking that top 5?
I don't know. Listen, you know, that's you know, he's definitely top 10. Yeah. Might even be top 5, but you know, he's one of the best backs in the history of the game.
Yeah, he was. It was tough because he was the matchup that I remember watching and just being like, we can do everything perfect and he can still just be that amazing. I'm gonna be honest with you too. Like, I don't think we have that many running backs like that in the NFL no more. I think that there are certain one, maybe Saquon Barkley, I kind of look at that way. Yeah. Derrick Henry's just a monster-sized man, but I guess him too, right? But outside of that, like, there's not a lot of guys where you knew, right? Like, y'all knew the game plan was just run it, right? Like, y'all knew that it was give the ball to Adrian, right?
Correct.
And it still seemed like on a time in, time out,
about Nick Chubb,
he was able to make it. I guess Nick.
You done exhale. You've been waiting to exhale. Nick Chubb, come on. There's Nick Chubb.
I love Nick Chubb, but is he a Saquon Barkley?
I think he has exceeded what everybody believed that he probably could or could not have been.
I agree with that.
And when you look at what the Browns do, you know, they run him. They run and they run and they run and they play action off of him.
Yeah.
You know, and he's consistent. You're talking about a guy that runs in between the tackles. He runs really hard and he gets you those tough yards on a weekly basis. Nick Chubb's got to be considered one of the top backs in the NFL.
Well, he's for sure one of the top backs in the NFL right now, 100%. But I just think, right, like,
you don't think he's Saquon-ish?
I don't think he's Saquon. I think that there are certain backs that make me, so with running backs for me, right, my rule is like, if I build a really good offensive line, I've seen the running back that wasn't supposed to be the Hall of Famer have really good seasons. I've seen the guy that comes after Walter Payton. I've seen the guy that comes after, right, some of those top running backs. And so I always focus on the line more. There's some guys that the line didn't matter. Adrian Peterson, the line didn't matter as much. Okay,
so you're saying right now you would take Derrick Henry over Nick Chubb?
Right now it's tough because he's almost 30. Yeah, no, I'm still there. Derrick Henry's a monster.
He is. But in my opinion, Nick Chubb's more consistent.
Now, let me ask you this, though. The part that we've always talked about, though, is that it is Derrick Henry. Even when the offensive line was mid, even when, right, like they haven't had great quarterback play, it is Derrick Henry. Like, he's the reason that they're in games, they're winning games, stuff like that. If you give Derrick Henry a quarterback, that is at least, I don't know, top 15, top, you know what I mean? Like what is
like
that?
Like a Derek Carr?
Right, like if you give Derrick Henry a Deshaun Watson,
a Derek Carr,
I'll take a Derek Carr with a Derrick Henry, the Derek combo out here. You know what I mean? Derek squared out here. I feel like there's not that many running backs like how you guys went up against AP, where I can say the offensive line was terrible. Not terrible. I'm not gonna say that. The offensive line wasn't the best in the NFL. Adrian Peterson still was able to get 100, 110 yards a game. I feel like Saquon Barkley went through that. That's why he had some of the injuries that he's had, where he's trying to make moves, and the second he's going to make a move, he's making 2 moves behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, they were also, I mean, they were getting the ball to him any which way possible. Yeah. Even when he's not running, the pass route is designed for him in some way, shape, or form. He touched the ball. He touched the ball, 40, 50 times a game. You're bound to have some injuries.
He 100%. And I think that's right. Like the guy, when you're the focal point of the offense, and as a defender, that's the focal point of the offense, and you still like, why is he going past me right now? Right? Like I feel like there's not that many of those players. Now, Derrick Henry a little different. I guess I'll take Chubb in the aspect of in the passing game, different things like that. He could be a little bit more impactful. Derrick Henry just going through you. Like, did you play a running back like that? There wasn't a running back like that you had to go up against, was there?
Brandon Jacobs.
Derrick Henry? Oh, that's true. Brandon Jacobs. Yeah, I forgot.
Brandon Jacobs. Yep.
What was that?
Listen,
like?
you gotta remember. Listen, we're in a different era now. I love Derrick Henry, but Derrick Henry is tall. Tall running backs. Linebackers get up under their chin. That's high. That's high. And back in the day when you had a lot of these thicker linebackers, the guys that were running in, there's blood in the water. And they're sharks, and these suckers are coming for nobody. You know what I mean? They got nuts loose in the head. They're coming after Derrick Henry. Now that these linebackers are a lot smaller. They're a lot smaller. You can be pushed. They get pushed around a lot more. They're faster. But so it would be interesting to see how he would have fared. You look at like Steven Jackson. Steven Jackson had a good career, but it was one of those shorter guys. It was one of those shorter careers right after Marshall Faulk. He was right there in St. Louis right after Marshall Faulk. He had a lot of injuries too. He had a lot of stuff that held him back, but he was a big target. I thought he was taller than some of his linemen sometimes. If you watch when he was playing from those days. So, the tougher running backs for linebackers are the shorter ones. The Frank Gores, Nick Chubbs, because it's just the balance and the balance and the power that they have at such a low stature. It's harder to get it down.
So you would rather see a Derrick Henry if you're on the opposite side of the field than somebody who's 5'9".
Easy target. It's an easy target. It's an easy target. I remember playing against San Fran, and they were running counters, but their counter was directly down at the center. Yeah. And so when I was shuffling over, I'm like, I should see the running back right now. You have the expectation when you supposed to see the running back, and next thing you know, I just feel something. Some air go right by my feet and my hips. I'm like, dang it. You know what I mean? I didn't even see him. He slipped right by me. Yeah. And so it was, he ran, Frank Gore ran that counter so well and so low to the ground that it was hard to get a hold of him.
That's interesting to think about. I guess you do see the smaller guys go further, but in my mind, right, he's bigger. He is a stronger guy too. He's very good with his stiff arm stuff like that. But just saying, it's just because the linebackers are a lot smaller in today's game as well. He's not stiff arming a Brian Urlacher off of him with Brian's weight at that time.
Right. And you got to think about like how shifty is a 6'3", 6'4" running back. Yeah. Like I'm not worried about you shaking me, so I'm not, and even if I were, I'm still not slowing down on my way over to this gap in between the tackles. I'm headed here. I'm going to time this thing out. When this big boy gets to this hole, we're going to see who's going to win. It's either going to be him or me. And it ain't going to be me.
You heard it here first. Lance said it ain't gonna be him. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Chicago Bears podcast. Somebody run that simulation in Madden. I need to figure out if Lance head up with Derrick Henry, how that's gonna go. I need somebody running that simulation.
I haven't played it, but I do hear my hit stick is pretty high though. I hear my hit stick's up there.
I'm not surprised. I used to be laying people out with your hit stick back in the day. That sounds crazy. All right, we're going to get up out of here. Follow us on everything at ESPN Chicago or ESPN 1000. You can also listen 5 days a week on the ESPN Chicago app or wherever you get your podcast. Make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the page, drop a bear down, and let me know in the comments and let Lance know as well, because these comments will go to Lance. Who y'all think's winning in that one-on-one matchup? Is Lance Briggs laying out Derrick Henry, or is Derrick Henry laying the boom on Lance Briggs?
And let's make sure that we send J-Mac to church next week or on his podcast this week. All right. Get the same team, the Vikings. All right. Mm-hmm. Tell him I said church.
Hey, y'all stay safe out there in Chicago. Burn on.
All right. There it is.